Can you name the biggest M&A transactions that happened in 2022? If you want to shine with your friends, prepare for an interview, or educate yourself, this top 3 is for you. For today's video, we went through league tables reports from Merger Market, the Financial Times, and Thomson Reuters, as well as dozens of specialized press articles to come out with the 3 biggest acquisitions that happened since January 2022. Let's see if you know some of them and are able to rank them. But before we start, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss out on any of our videos. Without any further ado, let's see the 3 biggest acquisitions of 2022. Last April, Activision and Blackstone announced their intention to acquire Atlantia. Atlantia is an Italy-based company engaged in the construction and management of airports, toll motorways, and connected traffic services. The company owns airports in Nice, St. Tropez, Cannes, and Rome, as well as motorways in 11 countries, including Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, the United States, and India. It operates toll roads in 24 countries. Activision is the holding of the Benetton family, which owns industrial and commercial companies, including the Benetton Group, Autogrill, and 21 Investimente. Blackstone and Activision, which already owns 1/3 of Atlantia, announced their intention to acquire 67% of Atlantia to reach the full ownership. After closing, the holding of the Benetton family and the world's largest private equity fund would respectively own 65% and 35% of the infrastructure operator. The acquirers were advised by Goldman Sachs, jpmorgan, Mediobanca, UBS, Bank of America, and UniCredit. Atlantia was advised by Morgan Stanley and BNP Paribas, the French bank, with a strong foothold in Italy. Based on a $24.10 offer price, 100% of Atlantia is valued at $20.6 billion. Adding the $32.5 billion of net debt, we get an enterprise value of $53.2 billion, which is about 11 times the EBITDA of $5.3 billion that Atlantia is targeting for 2024. This is an all-cash transaction, meaning Atlantia current shareholders will receive cash in exchange for their share. So you may be wondering what could be the rationales behind this deal. Why would Blackstone want to acquire an infrastructure operator in Italy? Well, the new acquirer expects to benefit from improved returns after 2025, when Atlantia's airport business could fully recover from the pandemic. The deal is also a way for Blackstone to protect itself against inflation. Let's talk a bit more about that. Blackstone's thesis is the following. During inflationary contexts, motorways and airports can be a potent hedge against rising inflation, as infrastructure groups tend to own regulated concessions that link to price increases. It is indeed estimated that 70% of assets owned by infrastructure companies have the scope to pass through the impact of inflation to customers. As a result, the transaction Atlantia appears to be a thoughtful investment for the U.S. private equity fund. The deal is interesting because it is the biggest European buyout ever. Yes, you heard it well. Biggest buyout in Europe, and it happened this year. We also found the deal interesting because we used to view Atlantia as a declining company that could never recover from the Genoa tragedy. Atlantia was indeed the operator of the bridge that collapsed in 2018, killing 43 people. We look forward to seeing the future trajectory of the group and the measures that Blackstone will implement to compete against Atlantia's main competitors, namely Aena, Bouygues, and Vinci. In May 2022, Broadcom announced the acquisition of VMware, the US-based company engaged in providing virtualization and cloud infrastructure solutions. The US-based designer and manufacturer of digital and analog semiconductor products to the wired, wireless, enterprise storage, and industrial end markets acquire 100% of the company from Silver Lake Partners, a US-based private equity firm investing in technology. Broadcom was advised by Credit Suisse, Morgan Stanley, Citi, Bank of America, Barclays, and Wells Fargo. On the other side, the target financial advisors were Goldman Sachs, jpmorgan, and the Spanish bank Santander. Broadcom offered $142.50 for each share of VMware, valuing 100% of VMware at $61.5 billion. Adding the $10.1 billion net debt, we get to an enterprise value of $71.6 billion, which gives us an implied 5.6 times EV sales multiple and implied 23.5 times EV EBITDA multiple. The deal was paid in a mix of cash and stock. 51.5% were paid in cash and 48.5% were paid in Broadcom shares. For the 48.5% paid in Broadcom shares, each shareholder of VMware received a quarter of Broadcom share trading at $531.60, 1 day prior to the announcement. Regarding rationales, Broadcom stated that the integration of VMware should lead to an improvement of their customer experience by providing the ability to address the most complex information technology infrastructure needs. The acquisition of VMware services should also deliver more choice, value, and innovation to Broadcom's customers. So why is this deal interesting? Well, the transaction has sparked much discontent from competition authorities and VMware customers. First, the transaction is likely to be delayed due to antitrust regulations. In Europe, EU officials worry that the merger may lead to abusive behavior, including potential future price rises by the US chipmaker. Earlier this year, NVIDIA eventually walked away from a proposed $66 billion purchase of chip designer ARM after being subject to a lengthy EU antitrust probe. Like EU regulators, VMware clients were also concerned, pointing at two recent transactions led by Broadcom: the $18.9 billion takeover of CA Technologies in 2018, and the $10.7 billion acquisition of Symantec's security business a year later as recent examples of how the US chipmaker risks undermining competition and rising prices. In January, Microsoft, the US-based company engaged in developing, licensing, and supporting a range of software products and services, announced the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, the publisher and distributor of interactive entertainment software products. For this transaction, Microsoft was advised by Allen & Company and Morgan Stanley, and Activision Blizzard was advised by Goldman Sachs. Microsoft agreed to acquire Activision Blizzard at $95 per share, valuing 100% of Activision at $75.1 billion on a fully diluted basis. Then adding the net cash of $6.4 billion, we get to an enterprise value of $68.7 billion, which gives us an implied EV sales multiple of 7.6 times and an implied EV EBITDA multiple of 20.2 times. The transaction is an all-cash transaction, meaning that Activision Blizzard shareholders will receive only cash in exchange for their share and not Microsoft shares or a mix of cash and Microsoft shares. The rationales of the acquisition were the following. The acquisition will enable Microsoft to strengthen its positioning in the gaming market, becoming the world's third largest gaming company by revenue, behind Tencent and Sony. The gaming industry is crucial for Satya Nadella, the chairman and CEO of Microsoft, who stated that gaming is the most dynamic and exciting category in entertainment across all platforms today and will play a key role in the development of the metaverse platforms. The acquisition will also support Microsoft's position in the fast-growing mobile business, which is the largest segment in gaming, with nearly 95% of all players globally enjoying games on mobile. Activision should also benefit from Microsoft gaming support to accelerate its growth. So, why is this deal interesting? Well, besides the size, this transaction is interesting because we are all familiar with the products of these two companies, whether it's the Xbox or computers of Microsoft or the various games developed by Activision. It will be interesting to see what will change from a gamer perspective, knowing that from now, the new entity controls the gaming platform that is the Xbox and the games themselves. Let us know what you think about this in the comments. This is it for today's video. We hope you enjoyed it and you found it informative. If you have other video ranking ideas or suggestions, please put them in the comments. Please also don't forget to like and subscribe. Good day to everyone.